Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics. Deer season edition, very busy week in the Capitol. We are joined by 4 members of the Republican caucus in the House. Representative Chris Brown from the Northland, right?
That's right.
Welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
Jamie Berger, my old Boot Hill buddy. Welcome back to This Week in Missouri Politics.
Always enjoy being on, Scott.
Dane Diehl from the great western part of the state. You teaching the Jayhawks a lesson?
That's right.
You might not come across that line again, huh?
No, never. And I always enjoy it. We have a little camaraderie there. When you say Butler County, I say Butler, Missouri. So I like that.
We're some kind of sure-tell kin.
That's right. That's right.
And the man from Cham Clark Country, Representative Chad Perkins. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me, Scott.
So, just to be clear, we're taping this on Thursday afternoon, right after one of the probably more interesting caucuses that you've had in a while. Let's just talk about the thing that you guys probably had to discuss.
That's right.
The speaker's been in the news. A lot of discussion. I guess nobody knows exactly the full details, but what can you say about the caucus you just came out of?
Well, I can say this. It was a good caucus meeting. It was effective. We spent a lot of time talking about important things. And as it pertains to the speaker, because it's been in the news, right? The thing that people need to understand is this. I've always said in life, it's not the wrongdoing that gets somebody. It's the denial of it. It's the cover-up. Dean has been very forthright from the very beginning. He said, I made a mistake, which, let's keep in mind, this mistake is an accounting error. No one believes that there was anything purposefully that took place. It was an accounting error that he has owned since the beginning, and he's made it right. If someone says, yeah, I made a mistake, they own their mistake, they make it right, what do you want from somebody?
President Brown, an interesting time. I mean, you've not done this for a very long time, but probably one of the longer meetings you've sat through. What do you think the mood of your caucus was coming out of it?
I think generally when you're talking about where's the caucus going or what are you going to be united around, I think basically we are united around right now just allowing the process to kind of carry forward. We've got an ethics committee. They've met twice, I believe. And so I think we're just going to sit, we're going to wait, we're going to see what their findings are. I mean, that's what they're commissioned to do, right? If there are some alleged wrongdoings, they look into it. They'll report to the full caucus, the full Missouri House, I guess, and we'll take action on that. And to kind of go with what Chad said as well, people go back and revise MEC reports all the time. There's nothing new with that whatsoever. So again, does this rise to the point of needing a resignation or something like that? Because you go back, admit that you made an accounting error and go back and self-correct. I'm not sure.
Representative Diehl, there's something that's been interesting about this. In a town full of hypocrisy and just brimming with sanctimony, I haven't seen Representative Quaid and the Democrats make more of this than maybe it is. It was a motion of restraint, but also I think maybe they might think, well, what if they're maybe living in a glass house on some level, right? But that's never stopped anybody. I've been impressed with their restraint.
Absolutely. And just from caucus today, maybe there needs to be a little bit more of that. It was healthy conversation today. A lot of conversations that needed to be had, quite frankly. But everybody's priorities a little different, and it's interesting to see the different reactions across the state.
President Berger, you've been around politics for a long time. It feels like there's a little bit of this from what's been publicly known. A software issue seemed a little bit to do about not much. And then, the guy made a mistake. I interviewed him myself a couple weeks ago. I think the speaker admitted an error. It feels like maybe, he deserves to get some grief for making a mistake. The buck stops with him. But from the representatives I've talked to, they feel like, okay, you've taken your rack on the knuckles.
To kind of go along with what my colleagues said, he has owned his mistake. He's amended his MEC report, which we have the ability to do. He's made restitution. I think we kind of move on from that.
All right, let's talk about what you did discuss. Representative Brown, in your so the caucus was originally, I guess, to discuss what you're going to do next session.
Right.
What did you guys come up with as your priorities next session?
Well, IP is going to be front and center, obviously, in this petition reform. I think public safety, which is kind of right in my wheelhouse. I'm obviously from Kansas City. Law enforcement is in tough shape, I think, across the state. For example, in Kansas City, if KCPD was fully staffed, we'd have around 1,400 uniformed officers. We're sitting around 1,100 right now. We're 300 officers down. So I think public safety needs to also be a priority for our caucus.
Representative Perkins, you talk about IP reform.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's 163 votes that says there needs to be IP reform.
That's right.
I think there's probably the problem is when you say, okay, we're going to change it to this, it's hard to get 82 on anything.
That's right. In the House, we can pass IP reform. We proved that last year. it dies in the Senate. But, at some point in time, what we have to keep in mind is that regardless of what we pass, it goes to the ballot. And whatever we pass,
Me and IP reform passes the ballot, I'm pessimistic.
whatever we pass has to be able to be passed on the ballot. And that's where you're going to have some issue.
Representative Berger, I don't know. In the Boot Hill, we're skeptical. That's why they never ask us for any of these signatures on these dang things. It's because we don't tell the government where we live unless we have to. I'm not sure any of these things can pass. I think there's one some great ideas. I think you could pass a resolution to have IP reform unanimously. I think when you have to decide what you're going to do, it gets tougher. And I think when you get to the ballot, it gets almost impossible.
It's going to be a tough sell. If we can get the word out on the IP reform, on the legalization of medical marijuana, I think if we can get that word out how it passed, I think people would maybe go along with a 53, 54% issue. But I think if you get any greater than that, it's hard to sell.
Adam Schwab was on this week at Missouri Politics Midweek, a bit you can find here on those social media channels, Tuesday, Wednesday of each week. He had an idea that I've heard Rich Callahan, my buddy from here in town, say. He said, you ought to make a statutory change. If it's done by the people, it should take a supermajority to overturn, which there has been statutory changes that have been promoted and passed, and they've been overturned by the legislature. But make the Constitution harder to amend. Well, that seems like some common sense.
Pretty logical to me. I mean, I think the U.S. Constitution is 70% to change, and I think a little bit of leaps and bounds. And one other thing we talked about at caucus was maybe a few different options. Like I said, being a rural guy, having that rural representation, really, if I could present that like Representative Berger said to my people, I think that would be a driving force at the ballot.
All right, so give me prediction time here. Does an IP reform bill pass the legislature?
Boy, that's a tough one. Given the history of the Senate the last couple of years, I'm going to say
What do you think? Does something actually pass the legislature next year on IP reform?
No.
I'm going to say no. What do you think?
Passes the House, fails the Senate.
What do you think?
I'm going to say if we give them a few options and kind of, leave it in their court, I'm optimistic. I'm going to say we get something.
All right, let's say you pass whatever you think gets through. Does it pass at the voting booth?
I say, it falls back like we were just talking in rural Missouri. We're going to have to show up and help out, the other areas across the state. I think that'll be the game changer in that.
All right, give me a prediction. If you do get it through the legislature, does folks up in your neck of the woods pass the thing?
Probably not, no.
What do you think?
Probably not.
depends on what the language looks like and how it is positioned.
Does abortion change that? If this becomes a referendum on abortion, does that help you or hurt you? I would have said it helped. I'm not so sure it does anymore.
I don't know. I don't know. Because, again, I don't know. It's going to be a moot point if we don't get IP changed.
Let's talk about law enforcement for a minute.
Okay.
What can you do on law enforcement?
Well, several things. I was in a study group that met this summer with Lane Roberts, kind of chaired that. And we want to somehow maybe come up with another commission or an agency that is going to work on anything we can do in terms of recruitment and retention for officers across the state. And one thing that we're looking at is basically a PR campaign. You know, like how the military used to do, you know, to get people in, then, you know, maybe help pay for a couple years of college and things like that. But just something to where young people, when they're in high school, when they're starting to think about options after high school, can think about public safety and law enforcement as a career, not something that maybe they look into or think about when they're 30 or 35. But I mean, coming right out of high school, coming right out of college, you know, to get them in there. And then again, you know, some tangible things like maybe some dual credit stuff in high school, college reimbursement, some shared insurance costs later on, whatever it may be. But the bottom line is we've got to sweeten the pot to get people in law enforcement. We just have to, whether that be the tangible stuff, the intangible in terms of helping the community and all that. But we need to move people into law enforcement.
I loved what you guys did with putting in law enforcement training program at Lincoln University. Boy, that made all the sense in the world to me. What else could you do?
You know, law enforcement, where we live, you know, we kind of get a little far out. I rely on my urban areas and the problematic areas. I think any program incentivize, like Representative Brown was saying, we have to incentivize those people. And it's a problem, you know, the pay even in my district, but any incentives we can pass in the legislature, I'm in believing with Representative Brown. It has to help.
Representative Berger, back home is show me the money, right? You've got to pay people.
Show me the money. And I think if we could put a positive spin on it from the state legislature to tell law enforcement that we support them, we're with you, I think that would be resounding across the state.
So let me ask you the question. I remember when SAVA was being promoted, law enforcement officials said, hey, this is not a good idea. This is a bad thing. Don't do this. And I saw the Republicans run on back the blue until it came time to back the blue. And then it was like, well, nah. If you're talking about sending positive messages, is it at this point you could just do show me the money? Or
No.
show me the money and then we'll try to help you if we can, as it doesn't take people up.
I think my colleagues are right that the money's important, right? We need to pay people for that. But there's other things you can do. I mean, everybody on this panel today is very supportive of law enforcement. They're honorable, decent folks doing a job that most people couldn't do and don't want to do, right? So there are other things we can't do. It's not the only thing, but it's certainly a key component.
Crime's not really a problem within an hour of most people on this panel's drive, but it's a problem within half hour of your district. Would pay work, or are you going to start listening to them about some of the gun issues?
Well, pay certainly is a place to start. Like, for example, Kansas City is obviously surrounded by municipalities.
Yeah.
And they're doing, tough work in Kansas City Police Department. So, for example, last session, we did take that salary cap out of state statute, which now is going to let the police board commissioner set a much more competitive pay scale.
Well, that made sense, right?
Yeah. And again, I hope they're starting pay now. And don't quote me on this. I'm not sure if I'm going to be exact on this, but I think their starting pay now may be around $60,000 if everything comes to fruition that I've been told. So the bottom line is, I mean, that's at least a start. It's a place to start. And again, you may hate to say it, but it's just a true fact of reality. A lot of times people go where the money's at.
Of course, that's teachers, cops. I mean, pitchers, wide receivers. That's just real life.
No, it is. So, in my hopes, Kansas City Police Department, tough job. I hope they have the highest pay scale in that area there.
Well, I mean, they do have the toughest job. That's one thing in St. Louis. The places that have the toughest jobs don't always have the best pay.
Right.
It is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? Will the legislature ever listen to cops on guns?
Will guns in Missouri is a touchy subject?
Dane, will the legislature ever listen to cops on guns?
I don't believe so.
What do you think?
I don't think so.
Not a chance, right?
Well, I disagree to some extent. The cops are not uniform in their decision on this. The police out where I live believe that that's your constitutional right. I understand that the situation might be different in more urban areas. Not in the rural areas. I don't know that our police necessarily agree with that.
Interesting. Boy, we'll pick this up. We'll be right back after this. First, go to showmissouri.com. The history of Missouri, one county at a time. We even went up and talked about Sham Clark's area in his neck of the woods. Went up to a dine and saw the best mustache on any county commission you'll ever find. Go to showmissouri.com. The history of Missouri, one county at a time. You learn all about the history of the state. We'll be right back with the second segment with the same panel after this.
For more than a century, the St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
Reach your audience with Outreach Studios. Studio 17 offers 1,000 square feet of customizable space that can accommodate roundtable discussions, podcasts, live stream content, and much more. For a different look, we offer View 17. This one-of-a-kind event center is fully wired for broadcast and is perfect for corporate or commercial content. With Outreach Studios, the opportunities are endless. Elevate your message, your brand, and your expectations with Outreach Studios.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren, Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back this week in Missouri Politics. We kept the same panel around. Representative Chris Brown from the Northland. Thank you for sticking around.
Thank you for having me.
Jamie Berger from the great Boot Hill. Appreciate it.
Always glad to be here.
Chad Perkins from Northeast. Appreciate it, sir.
Pleasure.
And from the great West, Dane Diehl. Thank you so much for sticking around.
Glad to join the crew.
Let's talk about the abortion issue, Representative. Dane, I always just thought, well, people vote for pro-life candidates. They must be pro-life. Then the legislature passed a very extreme, shut the door on all abortion in the state. Now you're seeing different cracks around the nation where they had similar legislation. Ohio, not quite as conservative, but somewhat similar. Ohio had a bill that first started slow, put some provisions in, exceptions. Then they went for the whole enchilada and put it in the Constitution Tuesday of this week, passed by a comfortable margin. There's some discussion in the pro-choice community how they go about it. I tend to think if they go conservative, they pass something in Missouri, right?
It's something that we that was brought up today at caucus also. We all need to be cognizant of, where our voting base is. And, there's a few, small considerations, we should all make as representatives, I do believe. We all, I think I can sit up here and say, we adamantly support life. But is there a few circumstances that need to be investigated? Absolutely.
Mr. Brown, your district's one where I would venture a guess that if this is put on the ballot and it's any way reasonable, this is going to garner significant support.
Yeah, it would. It would. Yeah.
So I've always kind of felt like the legislature may be a little further out, more pro-life than the rest of the state. If something goes to the ballot, how does that impact your race next fall?
I don't know specifically about my race, but I think it does impact. It's going to bring people on the left out. There's no doubt about it. Hopefully I'm going to be fine in my race, but it'll bring people to the polls. It will.
Chad Perkins, your caucus, there's your district, my assumption is this probably has a hard time passing. You live on the Avenue of the Saints, for goodness sake, but I do think that if you look around the state, there's going to be a lot of these districts, and a lot of these, let's say there's 10, 12 districts that are going to be competitive. I'll bet you whatever they put on the ballot as far as abortion is very popular in those 10 or 12 districts. How are you going to defend those districts if on the same ballot you're squarely against them on the hottest issue on the ballot?
Yeah, that's important to point out that our caucus is pretty diverse. It comes from a lot of different areas. Dane and I, Jamie, we come from similar areas. They might be different geographically, but politically they're similar. Coach Brown over here, his district is very different than ours. It's a suburban district.
Yep.
The makeup is different. The votes we take aren't always the same. Chris lives in an area that those type of things make a difference. Jamie, Dane, and I, we can vote 100% pro-life every day. But we have members that would have trouble making that.
Give advice to your caucus members or folks running in these open seats. If you run some polling and you see this issue's 60-40 on the pro-choice side, what do you tell a guy running for rep and how does he campaign?
Well, the fact is this, Scott. Everybody ultimately ends up overreaching, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone ends up overreaching. So did the Dobbs decision hurt the Republican Party when it came to House seats, both local state seats and U.S.?
This is the greatest curse ever. You got what you wanted.
Yeah. And, if the left overplays their hand, they'll regret that also.
Representative Berger, you've watched politics a long time, longer than I have. The greatest curse you'll ever see in politics is getting what you want. The approach pro-life folks got what they wanted, and now maybe there's a little bit of overreach here.
That might be true to an extent, but I think at the same time I'm comfortable with what we have. I'm going to support what we have today, and I'm going to stay that line.
Well, tell me this. If you're giving some advice, how would you tell someone in one of these tough suburban districts where it's going to be close? And this issue is not going to be popular. The pro-life issue is not going to be popular. This ballot measure will be. How they thread that needle?
I think they go out to their constituents and promote life. I think they say the people they're talking to, lucky their parents didn't choose abortion, that they can still vote. They're standing here today for me to be able to talk to you. They weren't aborted.
Prediction time. If the pro-choice community puts something reasonable on the ballot, does it pass?
I believe it does.
What do you think? Does it pass statewide?
No.
What do you think?
I'm not going to vote for it, but I think it probably passes.
It's a dangerous spot. I'm in agreement that there's high probability with the elections that have been going on. It have a good shot.
Well, that's what Representative Perkins said, though, of the overreach. I think that may be there's a place they're safe, I think, but they get a little too far from the bank. I think that's where they overreach and you risk going down. While they may be content in one, there's a large pro-life constituency in the state.
I think at the same time there's a large religious faction in our state, and I think more people will come out to vote more than ever.
No doubt. Representative Perkins, let's talk a little statewide politics here. Three-way governor's race. I tell you, you and I have heard Bill Eigel himself, the best orator in the party. Mike Kehoe, if you meet Mike Kehoe and you don't think he should be making decisions, I question you. And Jay Ashcroft's clearly the front runner. It is a truly interesting race that any of the three of them could win. Handicap it for me.
I think the race has tightened up. We talked about this 6 months ago. I think it's tightened up since then. Scott, I'm usually a guy you can call and I can make some bold predictions. I don't know what to tell you, man. It's going to be a tight one.
I tell you, Representative Berger, to me, you could make a case any of them could win. You could make the easiest case that Ashcroft wins, but you could make a case that any of these guys could win. I think Mike Keogh's in maybe an advantage because there's a base of voter that Jay Ashcroft has too, I think. He's fishing for that right-wing, hard internet activist folks that Bill Eigle's fishing for. But Jay Ashcroft has a whole bunch of folks. We've both worked a poll on an August hot day in the Boot Hill. A lot of folks that are going to show up know that Ashcroft name, and they like it. And that's a whole group of people that I think that are hard to get from Jay Ashcroft. With those two groups, you can make a real good case for Jay. Mike Keogh's running his truck in the ground around this state. If you meet Mike Keogh, I don't know how it's a better case to vote for him. Can Mike Keogh meet enough people to win this race?
I think he can, and he's garnered so many endorsements from all across the state. And the one thing I got to always say, too, people that are younger than 40 years old, the Ashcroft name doesn't have that much of a resounding effect on them. If we get young people to vote, I think that's going to determine the election.
Dane, Diehl, young people just don't vote. Everybody says that, especially in August. They might show up in November. Young people aren't going to vote in August.
You know, well, we know it goes back to the issue we were just talking about.
You voted, but you were on the ballot. That doesn't count.
I think there's going to be a little more incentive to get people there in August. You know, like we were just talking about, some of these IPs, I do believe it's going to, right or wrong for our caucus, is going to bring out more people to vote. So if Keogh can harness some of that vote, I believe, like Representative Perkins says, it gets a lot closer.
I'd say there's a group of people that are probably not even your most frequent voters, but they're older. And that's who votes in these Republican primaries, is older folks.
That's right.
They know that Ashcroft name is going to be hard to shake.
Yep.
And I tell you what I think may end up happening is that all three campaigns are going to have plenty of money. As the bullets fly, the people result back to that name because they've heard something bad about everybody at some point, right?
I think that's a valid point. I also, work ethic's a big deal for me in the area I come from, and I'm in agreement with you. If Mike
out work, Mike.
Yeah, if Mike gets out and has the support, not only I know we talked about locals and grassroots, some endorsements, but he has some support in the legislature. I think that's going to be key.
He does have two iPhones because his contacts are full from one. I mean, you go anywhere in this state, mention Mike Keogh, and they're like, I know who them, and they don't just like him; they love him. It is amazing to me how he can meet this many people. But I'd say the difference in Mike Keogh and a lot of folks, if you meet Mike Keogh, you've met somebody. You've met somebody that's a big deal.
No, I agree. And next August is going to be interesting. I mean, it really is. And I agree with Chad. I think it's just tightening up. So we'll just have to watch and see how it plays out.
Give me a prediction. You knew I was going to ask.
Oh, man. Why do I have to go first on that? Yes. Boy, I hate to do it.
Let me ask you this. I'll give you an easy one. Could Keogh win without Ashcroft and Eigel fighting?
Yes. Keogh can win.
Even so.
Absolutely.
Jay Berger, can he win? This Ashcroft-Eigel thing feels a little personal, and I don't sure Keogh could win without it, but I think it's not going away, so it doesn't matter.
I think it helps Keogh tremendously. I think he wins.
Yeah.
What do you think? Can he win without them two spending some of that money fighting each other?
If the election's today, I think Jay Ashcroft wins.
I think totally so.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. If you've got Ashcroft and Eigel fighting, which is what you have right now, Keogh's stockpiling money. He's going to have getting close to maybe twice the money on this current trajectory. That's how he wins, right?
I think that helps his cause. I'm still in, I guess if you want to start with me, I'm still my area, the business approach, business-oriented mind. That goes a long way. You just got to get his story in front of people and have some help along the way.
Just like Keogh, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, let me talk about some of these down-ballot races. You got your speaker running for lieutenant governor. Now Bob Onder's in. Paul Berry from St. Louis, Holly Rader. I mean, all these things. I see these polls. I don't believe any of them. I think it's a name ID thing. And tell me the truth, Dane. If we were at the implement dealership, nobody knows any of these names.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, you might, Jamie. If we were down, if we were in Mississippi County, if we were down at the Warren Hearns Museum, nobody would have heard of any of these people.
No, they wouldn't have.
It's just a name ID thing, right?
Exactly.
I hear people talk about, they're going to, in the Secretary of State's race, they're going to hit Caleb Broughton's voting record. They're not even going to know who that is. I mean, if there's enough money to know who that is, that's amazing.
They'll check a box. They'll just check a box.
How does somebody in the Boot Hill decide who they're going to vote for to check that box?
I think they just walk in there and check a box.
That they might have heard the name.
Might have heard the name.
Tell me the truth. I'm not sure. I see these polls and all this. I'm like, no, wait a minute. You're telling me someone's heard of Holly Rader in Bowling Green? I'm not saying I'm not saying they've heard of anybody else either. They haven't.
Well, I'll tell you what differentiates there. Keep in mind, Speaker Plocker is a personal friend of mine. Personal friend of mine.
Bowling Green knows who Dina Plocker is.
But you have a 4-way race, 3 men and 1 woman.
Sure.
And I think that gives someone an advantage.
No question. In a Democrat primary, it's a huge advantage, but it's still an advantage in a Republican primary. We saw that with the auditor's primary back in 2018. I don't think many people knew Sandra McDowell, but I think she was the woman, and it was an advantage of people not spending a lot of money. Give me a surprise on that down ballot race. Give me one person on that down ballot right now you think is going to win a race. You got the Attorney General on the ballot. You got Vivek Malik running against Koenig and Cody Smith. You have Caleb Brown's going to have a lot of money. Denny Hoskins going to have money. Shane Schuler's got a geographic advantage. Give me somebody that's going to win.
I don't know that I can answer that.
All right, Chad, step up. The Boot Hills let us down. Let's go upriver here. Give us a prediction. Give me somebody that's going to win.
I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm friends with all these folks running. I really am. Cody Smith's a friend of mine, and I think Cody has a very good chance at that treasurer race.
Give me somebody that's going to win a race.
It's a race that I don't know that much about candidate-wise, but I sure value for the position he's been put in and appointed is Andrew Bailey. I think he's doing a great job, and, a true Missouri boy and the thing.
War hero.
Oh, man. Yeah, small-town Missouri. I think he's worked hard and fell into a position, some big shoes to fill, and I think he's doing that.
Somebody's going to win.
Well, I'm going to go with Chad. I'm going to go with Cody. I've been around him for 3 years, and I think he is a smooth individual.
Well, if you know Cody, you have a high regard for him.
I do.
Found that
I do.
case.
He's a smart man.
Well, look, unfortunately, we're out of time, so I can't predict. So with a minute left, Dane, who won the week?
And hunting season is here. I'm going to say Missouri outdoor crowd bringing money into Missouri, and deer season opens this weekend. Duck season. It's a great time for Missouri.
Who won the week?
Video lottery terminals won the week this week, Scott, and I'll tell you why. Denny Hoskins has competition. There's been several people come out, including Caleb Brown this week. That's going to keep him occupied. Video lottery terminals won the week, and that's a good thing because the state has had so much money in the last few years, we haven't had to have hard budget discussions. And when that money from the federal government starts to run out, we're going to be needing to look at other sources of income, and video lottery terminals are a good source.
Like Chris says, who won the week?
MIZ over Tennessee, 27-17.
I love that you came with a number, too. I like that.
Hey, I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. They won a big game overseas in Frankfurt, Germany. Great ambassadors for the city and the state.
I'm going to go with the folks in Kansas City that are talking about a Royal Stadium. What a great time to discuss that. I saw the Northland project looked outstanding. I know there's a downtown proposal. It's an exciting time to talk about baseball in Kansas City. I'm going to say the Royals actually, and not just because they were stolen, legitimately won the game. We'll see you in 2 weeks after I eat some turkey for This Week in Missouri Politics.
This Week in Missouri Politics is sponsored by the Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, Ameren, Spire, and the United Electric Cooperative.
I'm a history buff, like I know a lot of you are if you watch the show. We're doing a thing of the history of Missouri. We're going to do it one county at a time. We call it Show Me Missouri. We're going to travel to all 114 counties of the state. We'll have a member of the Farm Bureau, county elected officials, some of your state legislators you see here on the show. We're going to talk about the history, what's happening now in the county, and how the two are interconnected. It's a passion project of mine. If you like history, I hope you'll get involved. Follow us. Go to MissouriTimes.com. You can see it. We'll probably branch it off into its own social media at some point. But you've been so good to us at the Missouri Times, the show, different papers. This is a passion project that I hope you'll enjoy. It's called Show Me Missouri. The history of Missouri, one county at a time. The first county was Polk County. We had a great time. And we hope you'll go to MissouriTimes.com, find a little bit about it. And if you like the history of the state, I hope you'll enjoy it.